casually, and to Pollyanna, in the very casualness of these references, lay their sharpest sting, for it showed so unmistakably that Jimmy and Jimmy's presence were now to Mrs. Carew a matter of course. From other sources, too, Pollyanna found fuel for the fire of her suspicions. More and more frequently John Pendleton dropped in with his stories of Jimmy and of what Jimmy was doing. And always here there was mention of Mrs. Carew. Poor Pollyanna wondered indeed sometimes if John Pendleton could not talk of anything but Mrs. Carew and Jimmy, so constantly was one or the other of those names on his lips. There were Sadie Dean's letters, too, and they told of Jimmy and of what he was doing to help Mrs. Carew. Even Jamie, who wrote occasionally, had his mite to add, for he wrote one evening, "It's 10 o'clock. I'm sitting here alone waiting for Mrs. Carew to come home. She and Pendleton have been to one of their usual socials down to the Home." From Jimmy himself Pollyanna heard very rarely, and for that, she told herself mournfully, that she could be glad. "For if he can't write about anything but Mrs. Carew and those girls, I'm glad he doesn't write very often," she sighed. Chapter 27.